This is Shiloh Battlefield National Military Park, and it's located in Tennessee, on the Tennessee River. This is a pivotal battle in the early part of the war where General Ulysses S. Grant invaded Tennessee, sought to invade Mississippi, and he was faced by General Albert Sidney Johnston, who formed a defensive position back in Corinth, Mississippi, and then advanced his forces up to Pittsburgh Landing, which is Shiloh today, where the Shiloh Church was. And a very important battle was fought here. So we're going to analyze this battle. So come join us. And we're going to enter the visitor center and look at the artifacts and exhibits that they have. This is the Tennessee 51st Regiment battle flag from Shiloh. And this Union flag was captured on the battlefield during the Battle of Shiloh. And an artillery flag that was left behind by the retreating Union forces. This is the sword of Union Brigadier General Prentice. This was the saddle of Major McFerrin, who fought on the Union side. This drum was used during the battle and was found abandoned afterwards. And this is the belt rig and Colt revolver of First Sergeant William H. Birtwistle, which he used during the battle. Some examples of some canister and balls. And this is where the Battle of Shiloh began. Colonel Everett Peabody sent Major James Powell on a patrol to see if he could reconnoiter the area and see if he could find any traces of the Confederate Army, which he did. And that's where the battle began, and that's where the Confederates decided they were going to use that instance to attack. Major Powell withdrew to this ridge where Colonel Everett Peabody, who initiated the battle in the first place, he tried to make a stand for several hours early in the morning of April 6th, and was unable to hold this position. The Confederate assault overwhelmed Colonel Peabody's position, and Colonel Peabody himself was killed in action here. This memorial commemorates the death of Colonel Everett Peabody, who died trying to defend his campsite on the first morning of battle. And this is the site where the Confederates captured 2,100 Union troops who had fled from the Hornet's Nest. And Union Brigadier General William Wallace was mortally wounded at this site during the early phase of the battle. So during the Confederate onslaught, the Union troops retreated here across Duncan Field and made a stand at the sunken road. And they took a position here, and they were able to hold off 11 ferocious Confederate attacks over 8 hours. And this is the Iowa monument commemorating the defensive stand. This is the Arkansas Memorial, which is placed in the Hornet's Nest area of the battlefield. The Confederates advanced until they reached what is now known as the Hornet's Nest, which was a stubborn Union defense along a sunken road where the Confederates launched multiple attacks, and the Union they held their ground. And this shows how the Confederates attacked, and the sunken road located right along here is where they made their stand, the Union. The action along this sunken road was called the Hornet's Nest, because the mini balls whizzing by everybody's heads, it sounded like hornets just flying all over the place. The sunken road gave the Union excellent cover with which to fight and fire into the Confederate attackers. And a couple more Iowa regimental monuments at the sunken road facing the Confederate attacks. The Iowa monuments continue to be placed along this sunken road with their stiff defense against the Confederate assaults. The Minnesota monument, which is placed along the sunken road and the hornet's nest. And this is the site of one of 5 known burial grounds where Confederate dead were just laid by the hundreds or dozens in a pit and buried after the battle. No one could identify them, and it was important to bury the bodies as soon as possible. This is Jones Field, where the Union took their final stand and stopped the Confederate attack and launched a counterattack. And when they got reinforcements the next day, the Union was able to advance further. So Jones Field is one of the turning points of the battle, where the Union was able to rally and for good stop the Confederate advance. And this is Wolfe Field, where Grant's right flank counterattacked in the afternoon southward, but it wasn't successful and they had to withdraw. This is the Ohio 81st Infantry Regiment monument located at Wolfe's Field. And this is where Beauregard made his last stand at Wolfe Field. Made some desperate assaults against the Union through Water Oaks Pond, which was located here, on the second day of the battle. He failed to halt Grant's counteroffensive, and Beauregard withdrew his army from the battlefield back to Corinth in defeat. And this is the pond right here. This is the Tennessee monument at Water Oaks Pond and the desperate effort to stop Grant's advance. This is the Illinois monument located near Wolfe's Field. This is the Pennsylvania monument, and it was built in 1902. This is Shiloh Church. It's a replica built in 2011. The original church was at the center of some very fierce fighting, and it served as a field hospital after the war and also served as General Grant's last headquarters. And this is where Brigadier General Daniel Ruggles of the Confederates had his artillery, 62 pieces. It was the largest concentration of artillery in North America to that date. And they fired down on the Union and forced them to retreat across Duncan's Field. This monument commemorates the Ohio 5th Cavalry. In Rhea Field, the 6th Mississippi Regiment charged twice headlong into the deadly Union crossfire. Out of 425 men, 300 were casualties. It was one of the bloodiest hours of fighting in the Civil War. This is the Mississippi Monument, which commemorates the heroic actions of the 6th Mississippi Regiment at Rhea Field. So Confederate General Albert Sidney Johnston, while commanding his forces forward and routing the Union troops, was shot just below the kneecap. The blood flowed down into his boot. He did not even realize that he had been shot, and he fell unconscious from his horse, mortally wounded, and died very shortly after. When P.G.T. Beauregard took over command, he halted the advance, and this allowed the Union's reinforcements to arrive, and the next day press the offensive against the Confederates. So the Confederates pressed their assaults here against the Union forces at Bell's Farm and the Peach Orchard, and the Union withdrew to Pittsburgh Landing, where they had originally embarked from, and that was on April 6th. So the next day, the Union was able to gain reinforcements and gain back this territory. This is the George Mance cabin. It is located at the Peach Orchard. And the views of some of the fighting across the Peach Orchard. This is Bloody Pond, located next to Bell's Farm, the Peach Orchard. And some heavy fighting took place here on April 6th, and the Confederates seized it, but the next day the Union counterattacked. They retook the pond. This is the Iowa Monument. It was built in 1906 to commemorate the achievements of the Iowa soldiers in this battle. And this is the position of Grant's last line at the end of the battle on the second day. And these are monuments to commemorate Indiana's role in the battle to the 17th Regiment, the 51st Regiment, and the 68th Regiment. This is the Michigan Monument. It was built in 1918. This is the Confederate Monument. It was built in 1917 and commemorates defeated victory. Though the Confederates won the battle, they lost the war. This is Pittsburgh Landing, and this is where General Grant landed with his army before the battle. And this is where the Confederates had pushed the Union troops back on the first day to their final defensive position. And this is where General Don Carlos Buell landed his reinforcements that helped the Union counterattack on the second day of battle. These are naval cannon of the type that were fired by the USS Tyler and USS Lexington that helped prevent the Confederates from pushing the Union troops into the river. A view of the Tennessee River at Pittsburgh Landing, where the Union troops landed. And this is the Shiloh National Cemetery.